Well, hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today to talk about the value of ASE to your business. Coming from the passenger car side, my couple years in the heavy-duty space has shown me that ASE certifications are much less common in the heavy-duty world than in the auto space. This panel is here to discuss the benefits of adding ASE certifications to your team and discuss some of the myths behind the lack of participation and how ASE can help your organization. Let's meet the panel. Homer Hogg has an extensive 41-year career where he began at Ryder as a technician and worked his way to director of maintenance, responsible for training, technician development, advanced vehicle diagnostic solutions, and service literature. He transitioned from Ryder to Travel Centers of America and is now TA's Vice President of Truck Service Operations. Homer is currently chairman of the board of directors for ASE, involved with multiple technical school advisory councils, chairs TMC's S16 study group as an advocate and is an advocate for the industry for professional development of technicians. George Ahrens, working with the ASE Education Foundation to develop and implement an initiative for the automotive, medium and heavy truck and collision industry to partner industry and education and open opportunities for student work-based learning and apprenticeships across the country. Since 2018, he has authored 5 articles annually for Fleet Maintenance Magazine. Previously an automotive education consultant specializing in ASE accreditation, he worked with instructors and administrators to develop partnerships with local business and industry through the program's advisory committees and guides them through the ASE program accreditation. George also chaired the Technology and Maintenance Council, or TMC, Super Tech competition for 14 years, beginning from 2005, and the Future Technician Skills competition. In 2015, he was awarded the council's highest honor, the Silver Spark Plug. Bob Cornwell is the Senior Director of Medium and Heavy Duty Vehicle Test Development at the ASE. He has been with them for about 15 years. Their truck team is responsible for maintaining the truck, military, school bus, and truck equipment tests, as well as the advanced L-level L2 test. He has been involved with the auto and truck industry for 42 years in many capacities. He has also had the pleasure of being involved with TMC in the Technician and Educator Committee, or TEC, as well as Skills USA in the Diesel Technology Committee. Brian Lewis is a consultant for ASE Heavy Duty Test Development. Brian is an ASE Master Certified Tech with 40 years maintenance experience on private, military, and commercial vehicles. Brian was also a 2007 and 8 Super Tech Grand Champion and 2008 Technician of the Year. Brian is also a Technician and Educator Committee Super Tech Judges Chairman and a 19-year TMC member who fosters relationships and connections across the country to tackle today's maintenance challenges. As we go through today's presentation, please keep in mind everyone not presenting is muted. Please direct all questions to the Q&A or chat box, and we will share them at the end of the discussion. This is being recorded and will be available in the HDA Truck Pride University as well as from the ASE. Although the whole panel is ASE certified, we have 2 from ASE and 2 from industry. Homer and Brian, please feel free to share your industry views as Bob shares his slide deck. Thank you all again, and now here's Bob.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for allowing me to come in and speak with you folks today. As we go along, please feel free, as Martin said, to use the chat feature and drop questions in there. We'll be answering those as we go along. So with that, if you guys are okay, Martin, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Please do.
Give me 1 second here. Okay, you guys see my screen up there yet, sir?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Let me put it up here where I can see it. Okay, so real quick today, we're going to go over the value of ASE. And again, as we go along, if there's questions and input, please feel free to jump in and ask questions or tell me to stop talking or whatever. So why ASE was founded, we'll do a quick history. ASE was founded as an industry-driven alternative to government licensing. In 1970, 71, 72, there was a group of folks who were looking to do some research on the complaints we had from the private sector, from the customers, about what they thought was people taking advantage of customers. After some study, we've realized that it was really just that a lot of our technicians weren't as well trained as we expected them to be. So a group of folks got together, put together this plan that we would create our own way of certification testing, kind of controlled by us instead of by the government. So our plan is to improve automotive service and repair through voluntary tests. We like to call them assessments and certification. We're pretty much the only nationally recognized technician credential. There's a few others out there, but ASE is pretty well regarded and known in the industry. So ASE is successful because, again, pretty much recognized by every industry segment. They are industry developed. And what I mean by that is the industry comes to us and says, hey, we'd really like a new test on EV, transit bus, truck, and they kind of guide us. Everything we do at ASE is industry driven. It's not just me sitting behind the desk coming up with ideas. It's the folks in the industry every day that come to us and give us some guidance. The ASE test questions, most people aren't aware of this, that they're written by technicians, trainers, folks from the industry. We do invite the players, Navistar, Freightliner, Peterbilt to come in. We'll have their folks come in and help us write the test questions and review them to make sure they're technically correct. With this process, every workshop we do is 15 to 16 folks. It's proven, defensible process. What I mean by that is you have somebody who is T4 brakes certified, and heavens forbid there's an issue where you have to go to court. We've never lost a case. Our customer base has never lost a case if they've been ASE certified in brakes. That is regarded as somebody who's proved that they know what they're doing. They've met the credentials, the certification credentials. Again, ASE is like a third-party assessment. We don't focus on any manufacturer. Bendix, Meritor, folks like that, everybody comes together and plays really well. So we kind of play Switzerland, where we like to cover everybody's make and manufacturing. We have over 50 years of certification experience. We just hit our 50-year last year. If you've never seen an ASE test before, ASE tests are multiple choice computer-based testing. You go sit into a secure facility like a lab, computer lab. You sit down, you take your test, very quiet room. It's valid for 5 years. If you pass all of the tests in a series, like the truck series is T2 diesel engines through T8 PMI, you'll become a master technician in the medium heavy truck. Currently, we have 13 separate series of tests with a total of 58 tests that are out there right now. So the different levels for ASE certifications, our entry level or our ASE entry level tests, there is no requirement for that. Basically, that is more of a student level type competition. The different levels for ASE, we do have an entry level. Again, no work experience required there. Our next is maintenance and light repair. That requires 1 year of hands-on experience. All of our other ASE certs are 2 years provable hands-on experience. And then our advanced level, L1, L2, and L3 are all 3 years. Now, with those experience requirements, you can substitute some educational time in there as well. So let's say you're getting ready to take one of your primary ASE certifications, and you've got 1 year of hands-on experience, but you've got over a year of educational experience. We can count that towards your 2 years of experience. And then
Bob,
our
can I jump in? Oh,
please, George. Oh, please.
Jump in. Folks, on the entry level, and Bob said this is student, it is a one time and it's not renewable. But for you out there that are employers, this is a work readiness credential that tells you that any student that comes to you with an ASE certification, that they have the basic skills to enter the workforce. That's it. That's all it's telling you. Nothing more than that. that they have the basic theory and a little bit of hands-on knowledge. We're just trying to provide you with a third-party assessment for those of you that are seeking to hire entry-level individuals.
Great point, George. Thank you very much. Any questions from anybody before we move to the next? Okay. So the areas that ASE certifies in, I'll be brief with these. You can see all those listed there: automobile, maintenance, light repair, medium truck. We have recently added a new one down on the bottom right as military series. This series of tests is available to the public, but we don't necessarily recommend folks take it if they don't have the experience from the military side. There is different verbiage, different content. It was built for the military folks. And the idea here is if you have somebody who will be transitioning from the military into the private sector, these military ASE certifications hold the same exact value as automobile, school bus, truck, stuff like that. They'll have to be updated and trained a little bit more for the new stuff on the road. Some of the stuff in the military is a little older technology. They are updating their stuff pretty quickly. So if somebody comes to you with a military ASE certification, don't think that they haven't gone through the same testing series your regular folks have as well.
And to add something that, Bob, in the industry side, for military equipment, I'm prior military, so they're still running wedge brake systems, wedge air brakes, and no after treatment whatsoever. So that's the big difference.
Good point. Thank you, Brian. Yes, we were very surprised by the fact that military folks are still running air wedge brakes on some of their equipment. Okay, we did a quick business metric study, a sample size of 233 businesses, pretty much comprehensive sampling, dealers, fleets, and independents with over 2,300 technicians. We actually gathered the data from the companies just for some quick updates on the key performance indicators of ASE certified technicians. So it does lead to reduced turnover. Our feeling here is reduced turnover means if you're going to help somebody get their ASE certifications, go through the training and the testing, you've kind of shown this individual that you want to keep them around, you want to show them the ability to advance their career. We have verified that that does normally get our technicians and our parts folks to hang around longer. Reduced comebacks, higher CSI, public trust and recognition. I can speak for that a little bit personally myself. The reason I started taking ASE certifications was just to prove myself that I could take the test, and it kind of set me aside from some of my other folks that work with me in the shop. We also often talk about ASE as a training effectiveness assessment. If somebody takes an ASE test, at the end of that, they walk away with a score report, and it shows where they performed well in certain contents and where maybe we need to spend a bit more time on the training side of things. So it allows direct training for weaker areas, kind of lets them know, hey, maybe you're a little weaker in electrical and we need to spend some more time. And training departments can use this information if the technician chooses to share it to maybe look at their training and see where can we update our training to make it a bit better also. And again, just kind of some technician recognition and retention.
I think this is a good spot.
Yes, sir.
Bob, I think this is a good spot to ask Brian or Homer, especially Homer in his current position, to talk about these items to him and his organization and his past experiences with Ryder also.
Yeah, George, I appreciate that. I was going to jump in there. I just wasn't as quick as George, so but I'm working on it. But first I want to say thank you to everyone who joined, and certainly thanks to HDA for giving us an opportunity to talk about ASE a little bit. I just from a personal standpoint, I spent many years as a technician, and I watched this one individual on the shop floor who was an ASE master. And I always dreamed, man, I had a dream that one day I'd be able to get one ASE. And, it was kind of intimidating to me. And so I just kind of avoided it and avoided it. And even though that the company I work for would encourage me to do it and they paid for the certification at some level, I just was intimidated. But one day I took a risk and I actually passed them all, and I've been a master ever since. And here's what I want to tell you. It absolutely changed the direction of my career, and me personally helped me gain some confidence that, you know, we don't really talk about that all the time, but that isn't a value that need not be overlooked. It helped me gain some confidence to continue down that path, and the rest is history. And so for our company, it does many things for us. You know, we can measure when technicians are able to achieve these certifications, we see an increase in sales. We certainly see a direct increase in technician retention, no question about it. We see that it becomes contagious. So when a technician gets one cert, now you can't stop them, right? They continue to study, and at the end of the day, we see less rework. We just see, here's another thing that's a little harder to measure. We see better attitudes on the shop floor and better interface with our customers. And I can go on all day. So, you know, I don't want to hog all the time, but, you know, I do want to say again, we appreciate everybody taking time and considering the value of ASE certifications. Thanks, Bob.
Great conversation, Homer. I appreciate that.
And Bob, to add that dittos what Homer said. Same boat here. I transitioned from the military side and went to Walmart Transportation in 1992. So it was a big jump from military equipment over. And I had a good friend who worked in the shop, and he goes, "You need to go take some ASE." And I said, man, I can't pass those things. I can't. So I did like Homer, and that was back in the day. Written test. I signed up, took a written test, and you had to wait for it to come in the mail. And I'd paste it in the mailbox and open the door, and nothing in there. And then one day, there's my scores, and then I had to open it and go, okay, what? And I passed. So it just promoted my self-esteem. So you know what? I can do this. And then, like Homer said, it gets contagious, and it was personal satisfaction to get higher. I had a couple certifications. Now I'm going for master. Now I want the advanced level. And once I did that, then a door of opportunity come up. So, oh, we're gonna pay you for performance. And guess who had those ASE tests and got that additional pay? Then folks are calling me. How'd you do this? How do I go about doing this? And it creates just a positive network. And it is our profession's PhD or your MBA. You can start off like a nurse. You can get your basic nursing certification, or you can take it all the way to the top to a PA, physician assistant, or let's go and be a doctor. It's our industry, our profession's credentials, and you have to retest every 5 years. New stuff's coming out. And man, since, you know, COVID happened, technology didn't stop. So this is a huge deal for personal satisfaction, getting your people motivated, and bringing the cream to the top. Thank you, Bob.
Absolutely. All great comments, guys. And I'll build on what Brian and Homer both said. The first time we get a technician to go in and face the fear of test anxiety. Let's be honest, none of us like to take a test. The first time they go in and they take the test, I'll be honest, the first time I took mine, I was unsuccessful with 2. And I thought, oh man, you know, I was kind of down on myself, and I went back and I studied and I took it again and I passed. And to these guys' point, it was like, woohoo, okay, now let me see where I can go next. So when we say it's an assessment, it's an assessment on a couple levels, not only your mechanical ability. We know most everybody can fix things with their hands, but you have to be able to put that into understanding how the written word works and come to the correct answer. And you have to be able to look at yourself and say, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit weak in diesel engines. Gosh, I've never pulled a cylinder head and done liner protrusion and things like that. So it's kind of a nice way to gauge yourself and see where you're at in your career. But it does seem to open doors. There is a huge group of folks out here who help each other every day going through the struggles we do in the shops. So it does kind of build onto that, and it does most definitely help your self-confidence. It most definitely did for me. To Brian's point, I started as a truck mechanic right out of high school, and did that for over 21 years and kind of moved my way up. And once I started getting my ASEs, it really kind of opened some doors for me to let me see the rest of the world. You know, I lived in my little box, and it let me see that, you know, there's other things out there I haven't touched yet. So it does help you update your training and your information about what's going on out there in the shops and in the rest of the world for you too. So great comments, guys. Thank you. So just some quick stuff on training. We did do a little bit of research to find out how do our technicians like to get trained. Majority of our folks still like to get trained either by somebody coming into the facility or going away to training. You can see 50% of the folks like to have, you know, that in-person training. A lot of our folks have OEM supplier online training. We've seen that there is a hybrid system going on out there now where you'll do your online stuff before you're allowed to go away to face-to-face. That seems to work really well for a lot of our folks. Again, technicians are tactile learners. I have to put my hands on it. I have to have somebody explain it to me for it to make sense to me. So you can see the rest of the numbers there between company-wide training curriculum for all techs. A few folks, unfortunately, 28%, 11% still have to kind of do it on their own. So heavy duty trucking, agriculture, construction, automotive, heavy duty trucking, automotive, and construction, all kind of the same, where we get sent away to certain places for training. The biggest thing we get is from our technicians is that bottom statement. Our technicians are looking for good management, which means somebody who's willing to invest time and effort into getting them trained. And then once they get trained, our technicians and our parts folks, they want to move on to and do bigger things. Let me do some more complex stuff. So this is all part of the thing. Once we get them trained, we need to let them put their hands on what they've been trained on. Comments from the group on any of that? Good, okay. So we've talked a little bit about why there's so little adoption of ASE in the heavy duty side. ASE was really started on the automotive side initially. So it's a little bit longer history there. There is, I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but a whole lot more automotive technicians out there than there is truck, school bus, transit bus, military folks. So just with the raw numbers, we're going to see more folks on the automotive side, but we just haven't made great inways with the aftermarket and with some of the manufacturers on the truck side. So the third bullet point, truck dealerships and independent repair shops, a lot of our folks work with specific brands, whether it's Katz, Cummins, Alice and stuff like that, and they get trained through those manufacturers, and that is their priority for their certification, their training budget. We understand that. In ASE, again, we try to be Switzerland. We try to play well with everybody. So we won't have specific Caterpillar engine questions or Cummins engine questions. They'll be more generic. It'll still cover Cummins and CAD and folks like that. As far as the question content goes, it just won't be specific to that. We do our questions, we'll have images that'll be a Cummins wiring diagram, and we'll kind of generic it enough so that anybody that has done the kind of work will be able to get to the correct answer. Our truck and bus technicians, unfortunately, are less excited about taking a test than their automotive brothers. We hear that quite often. Automotive guys have to stay more current, more up to date. The automotive stuff changes at a faster pace until recently than our truck and school bus and transit bus stuff does. The truck industry is catching up incredibly quickly right now. We're going through a massive change on the truck side with EVs coming, with LNG, with CNG, with all the other electronics that come into play, ADAS, active radar, things like that. So our truck folks really are playing catch up right now. And that includes some of our trainers. Our trainers are catching up, trying to figure out how to get our guys up to speed. So our truck repair facilities have really been in a in a tech shortage for longer than the automotive side. It is big, heavy, dirty, hard work. And our age on the truck side is, I'll say, more advanced than the automotive side. So our folks have more time in, a bit more gray hair on the truck side. And our folks that are, I hate to say it, my age with the gray hair, we don't like to be tested and stuff like that quite as much as our automotive folks do. So we like to think that there needs to be a carrot for becoming ASE certified, whether it's more pay, paid time off, some kind of additional benefit. If they're going to put themselves out there and go out and become ASE certified, there needs to be something there for them. And Homer, you and Brian may actually give some good feedback here. What do you guys see on your side as far as how do we motivate our folks to become ASE certified?
Well, Bob, that's exactly right. We're certainly seeing, I probably would call it a cultural shift within the heavy duty market for sure. From a technology standpoint, you nailed it. We've evolved maybe a little bit slower, but I think our ramp up has already taken off. And I think you're going to see the heavy duty market catch up quickly. Well, that's the iron, right? That's the electrons. But the folks that are touching them, it's taken a little time to get that whole, movement and starting to transition to make sure that our technicians really are pursuing and updating their knowledge and skill. And so we're catching up. But one of the things that we did that we found very helpful is we aligned ASE certification and, quite frankly, training with their pay. So we gave them a carrot because the more knowledge you achieve, the more skill you achieve, it's going to have a financial impact on you. So we aligned it with our commission system. So you move up that system as you obtain these ASE certifications and you obtain your training, you complete the training. So we link those together. And that has definitely made a difference. And we've seen a lot more participation within the technician ranks. And quite frankly, at the parts counter, it has the same impact. And so, yes, we're going to get there. Right? We don't have a choice because the technology is there and the equipment that the technicians are up against every day, it's very advanced. And so we have to make sure we align the skill and knowledge with that. And ASE certification is one way to kind of assess that to make sure you're at the right place with your workforce. So absolutely, it makes a difference, Bob. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and to that too, Bob, yes, the carrot, that's a big, let's face it, techs are, they want to make money. Everybody wants to make money. So it's an incentive, pay for your registration. If you're successful, then we're going to pay a little extra bump in your paycheck for your certifications up to a certain amount. And if you get all mastered, then it's maybe a little more on top of that. So it's an incentive, and then to stay there. If you don't stay certified, then you lose it. Is what I've seen in my experience. So it's an incentive. Stay certified, you keep up with the change in technology, and as Homer says, the equipment comes through the facility, you're staying up on it. And it's a challenge. It is a challenge to stay up on equipment. It's fast paced. But by being ASE certified, you said something earlier about, we're not Cummins specific, Cat specific, Allison, but we talk about a automated transmission or automatic transmission, electronic diesel engine. So in my mind, as I take ASE tests and come certified, so when it pulls up the door and go, I've never seen one of those. Well, I have the skill set and knowledge. Take a deep breath, go out there and look at it. It's the basics, and ASE testing and certifications help you with that. Get over the anxiety. I've never seen that before. No, I can fix this. And it promotes that self-esteem into you. Hey, I'm getting paid extra to do this. And it just really, it's a great motivator, great motivator.
Excellent. Thanks, Brian. So again, to Brian's point, if you take the ASE certification test and you're successful, in 5 years, you'll come back and take a shorter recertification test. But I can promise you there'll be new material on there that you might not have put your hands on just yet. We're going to update these tests on a 2 to 3 year cycle, so we make sure we have some more current stuff in here. We started adding auxiliary power units to some of our tests and stuff, and you'd be surprised by the number of phone calls that I got about what the heck's an APU? We don't have those. Like, well, just give it some time. You know, you'll be touching them soon enough. So we do update the questions. We do challenge our folks to Brian's point to make sure there's some updated data. So again, if you look at the ASE tests as an assessment against your own experience, you'd be surprised that, you know, what you'll walk away from the test, even if you're unsuccessful with a question, hopefully you'll walk out going, what the heck was that? I'm not sure what that is. I better go do some material studying on this stuff. So that's kind of the idea behind this as well. Okay, we'll talk briefly about how ASE certs help parts professionals and techs. Again, we've talked about it, demonstrates training and comprehension and experience. It does assist with hiring and placement. So if you're getting ready to hire a new parts guy, parts person, pardon me, and our parts person has a P1 ASE certification, we know this person has taken the test and shown the ability to retain the material that's covered on that test. So P1 is parts, it's aftermarket, it covers everything from front headlights to the rear bumper. It's a big test, it's a hard test. I struggle with that one myself, but it should give our business owners some comfort to know that, hey, this individual is able to successfully take the test and pass the test. So they have a base knowledge here that I know she is at least at this point. So that should prove helpful when you're hiring folks. And in a placement, if you come in with don't know any way to know where this person's training is, this should be helpful in that regard.
Bob, would it be, I think for Homer, especially in his organization, having the customers know that their technicians working in those centers across the country are ASE certified also gives them some sort of comfort level of where they're going to stop and have their vehicle serviced. Would that not be a true statement? And Homer?
Yeah, that's very true. And you know, we do estimates like most people, right? And typically your service writer is involved in that process. And the way they state and describe things, right, back to the customer, it's critically important to make sure we don't waste time back and forth on those estimates, right? Because time is volume and we have to keep the workflow moving. And so it causes the service writer to study and really think about parts and components and get better at what they do. And I'm telling you, it's amazing the impact that has not only on the volume of work that goes through your facility, also the impact it has on the technician at the end of the day, because the technician's trying to generate a living, and that service writer, as we all know, can have a big impact on that. So we've seen a huge impact that being able to pass that test has on the productivity of that particular shop. So yeah, it's a big deal for us.
And to add on to that, I've worked with folks across the industry. They may be Allison transmission specialists. They may be, Detroit engine specialists, but they're going into full service truck. So they want to know about the brakes and they want to know about the steering. And the best way to start is here. And they would have their service writers and parts folks in there also, so that we as an industry, we're talking the same lingo. And that's what an ASE certification does for you. We try to make sure that the lingo in there is what we call it out in the field. One person is not calling a whirligig, and the other one's calling a widget, and we're on 3 different pages. So when as Homer says, we did an estimate, and we figured in the wrong parts because one person, I give you an example, I need an air compressor. Well, some folks call an AC compressor an air compressor. And you can easily get crossed up and upset the customer right quickly. So that's where this assessment, learning the lingo, and sharing it across the board with parts, service writers, and techs, all talking the same lingo, it just makes the whole industry better.
I would also think that from a parts perspective, if somebody was certified, might increase their training and awareness of the additional components in the system, might offer an opportunity for additional sales choices.
Absolutely. And so we're getting ready to go in to air conditioning season. So that season is coming upon us, and a lot of folks, oh, I need an air conditioning compressor. Well, for warranty purposes, you need a dryer to go along with that.
Sure.
And also the correct type of oil. It might be PEG or ester, but also the right viscosity. So that's a huge thing there too, again, across the lingo, and it's upset charges, but also it's protecting the warranty and the customer also.
Great conversation, Brian. Thanks for that. And Martin. So along those lines with the AC stuff, if you have a compressor fail and our parts person, sees the compressor and realizes it's failed internally, to Brian's point, yeah, the receiver dryer should definitely be replaced, but the new AC condensers, if they're up to speed on what those are, they're so tiny orifices now, there's no flushing those out anymore. A parts person who's been tested would know that, gosh, we may want to have you guys replace this AC condenser too, because I'm not sure we'll get that cleaned up just enough. Great conversation, folks. So some of the disadvantages for ASE certifications, techs and parts folks, unfortunately recruited by other businesses. As we talked about, there's fewer of us on the truck side. We're quickly trying to recruit folks from the automotive, from other industries into the truck side. And that's kind of a big selling point for somebody if they've got an ASE cert. A lot of times I'll get a phone call at least once or twice a week. Hey, I need a list of folks in my area that are ASE certified. Sorry, we'll never share that with you, but we get asked quite a bit. So that's one way that they're looking to try to hire other folks that are already previously ASE certified. So it's a little bit of a downside of it, I guess. Another disadvantage, we talked about the certification requires research in a 5-year cycle, and it does cost some money to stay certified. We are one of the least expensive certifications out there as compared to anybody else as far as HVAC or plumbers or stuff like that. We're pretty good value for the cost. But these are some of the things that our folks are like, hey, why would I continue to be certified? Again, because the questions are going to be testing you on newer material, and it's going to make sure your training is up to speed. It's just our kind of feeling on our side of things. So briefly, how ASE certs help our parts professionals. We had a Frost & Sullivan survey, found the ASE certified parts folks considered by their employees to be more cooperative. And I believe Homer touched on that earlier. Once they kind of reach that pinnacle, they realize, hey, you know what? I do need to be better about this, and I do need to understand how to play well with others. They have a greater adaptability and dependability. Again, it kind of builds that confidence, that self-confidence with our folks, and we do see some differences. Again, it demonstrates training comprehension and experience. They have to have 2-year hands-on experience to be ASE certified. We did a study in 2010 with another parts company. We're not going to name names, but gross sales of 200 of their ASE certified parts specialists were compared to 200 non-certified parts specialists. And the number $102,000 kept coming up that, hey, we're seeing more sales with these folks. And we think that is primarily because they have a better view of the overall whole system. We talked about the AC compressor. and then the receiver dryer, and then maybe a condenser, things that kind of go along with that sale. If you're certified, you're going to see that kind of stuff on the test question. So I think it kind of sets in their mindset that, hey, there's other stuff I may consider, letting the customer know you should consider buying these things as well. It does show a willingness for self-improvement. We talked about self-confidence, and once they get successful with the first test, the other tests after that become easier. And they said, hey, I can do this. I want to move on to the next one. Some things that Brian and I have talked about off topic. We talk about reduced stopping distance on brakes. He and I both had the experience at parts stores where we'll be standing there, somebody will come in, hey, give me some brakes and just give me the cheapest one you have. And it's really important our parts folks understand just the liability. If we sell somebody the incorrect brake shoes for drum brakes, air brakes, and they're not up to spec, that could kind of get us in trouble somewhere down the road. So this is just an example of something that, you know, again, they'll learn as they go through and take these tests. Brian, you've got some feedback there. I can see your face, sir.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. So it's not just parts folks, but techs out there working on equipment, and myself always want to do a good job. And I've been very blessed in my career, but sometimes I learn later on, I wasn't necessarily doing the exact right thing. And you want to do the right thing, especially out there today's world, because the liability and the information is huge on knowledge. And these RSD brakes, I just happened to be in a training one day. Someone says RSD brakes. I said, what are you talking about? Oh, you got RSD brakes and this and this and this. And they explain the stopping distances and the laws. So we got bigger brake chambers on the steer axle now, and they're really doing a lot of work. And you've got to have the right shoes compatible for reduced stopping distance brakes. So that's important information for parts associates, techs to know, and document it on the work order that for liability purposes. It's just part of our job today. We have to know these things. So, because nobody wants to be involved in litigation and you know, a fatality accident in a commercial motor vehicle. It just is the first thing I want to know, who works on it last. So
good points, Brian. We've even had discussions about the differences in long stroke brake chambers. 30-30 long stroke brake chambers was quite an interesting conversation, and I was not even up to speed with where we are at with those. So again, this is something that, you know, just through conversations of, I need to go find this out.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, just a quick personal experience here. I was thinking about this. For many years, I spent a lot of my time mitigating legal cases. And, you know, I recall when we're going through that process, regardless of what company I worked for at the time, that, you know, when the lawyers are trying to understand who they are going to depose, right? So we got to have these depositions. When they see that they have an ASE credential, I can tell you for sure on multiple scenarios, they did not even call those individuals in for a statement. Right? And certainly if they did not call them into the courtroom to testify. So it's not to be taken lightly. And, you know, we can't live our life and operate a business just based on legal fears. I mean, they're at risk every day. So you've got to run your business, but it is definitely to be prudent. You have to consider that. So I've had some personal experiences around that. And I'm very grateful today that they had their parts certification.
Great point, Homer. I appreciate the feedback on that, and Brian. Very good points. Okay, we did an aftermarket research study of another parts company, name withheld on purpose, of 5,000 technicians, ASE certified versus non-certified. And this is technicians and parts people. Total parts and labor sales were 38% higher. Again, you know, because you've got the updated training and stuff like that, you understand, hey, when I do this, I should probably also consider doing that. We used brake parts as an example, or AC parts. Productivity is about 18% higher. Tenure or retention, which is a big issue we've been having on the truck side of things for quite some time, is over 300% higher. And again, it's just kind of showing our technicians, our parts folks, things like that. We support them. We're going to help them get their ASE certifications, help them move forward. It kind of shows them some love, and it hopefully wants to get them to stick around, reduce turnover, reduce training costs, things like that, and kind of help our team members realize that, hey, we do want you here. We do want to continue to invest in you and keep you involved with our company. So what's it take to be ASE certified? If I may, I'm going to take a quick question from a gentleman, Curtis. I did know there was ASE part certification. There is, sir. There are 3 out there right now. There is P1, which is medium heavy truck parts, which would fit primarily what you folks are doing. We have a couple others, P2 and P4. P4 is, as you can see from the slide up, is General Motors parts. That is a very specific test. If you're not doing inventory control and stuff like that for General Motors, that's going to be a really tough test. So P1 is really where your primary focus is going to be. I would think medium heavy truck parts. It does have some specific stuff in there, but nothing, if you have experience, you wouldn't have run across in the past. The automotive parts test is, I shouldn't say more generic, but it does cover everybody's make and model. The P4 is very specific, again, to General Motors. So if you want to take it, just be prepared and go look at the task list and stuff like that. We'll be talking about those in just a minute. So to become ASE certified, you only have to have 1 ASE test passed and then 2 years of provable hands-on experience to become ASE certified. Strongly recommend reviewing the task lists prior to taking the tests. Those are all available for free download from the bottom bullet point there, ase.com, at our task list. For some reason, that is the most well-kept secret at ASE. We have folks who'll come in, take the test, didn't know there was a task list, to be prepared for it. So for me, a task list or the study guide from ASE is really just a job description. It's going to tell you what content is covered on every single test, whether it's the P1. If you look at that and download that and review it, it's going to tell you how many questions in each area, how many questions total, and the stuff you should be familiar with before you take the test. So as an example, we have a lot of truck technicians who first test, they want to jump in and take the T2 test. Guilty right here. Thought, hey, I do diesel engines, I'll be really great. I'm a diesel guy. Didn't perform so well my first or second time. I should have taken as an example, the T8 PMI test. So here for our parts folks, we would recommend if you do medium heavy parts, you should take the P1 test first. And then if you get comfortable with that and you do automotive parts also, then move to the next one. If that makes sense. So in every series, you have the ASE tests. When we say the series, for instance, T series is the truck series. So you can take any test individually, one at a time. And then if you take the whole series and you're successful, as Homer had mentioned earlier, you become master level medium heavy truck. So that means you've taken all of them, brakes, steering, suspension, the whole thing, and you're a master in that series of tests. The same is true for the automotive level. We have A1 through A8. A1 is engines. A2 is, all the way through. A8 is engine performance. We do have a new, I shouldn't say new, 4-year-old A9 automotive light duty diesel engines test. Then we have our parts, P1 medium heavy, P2 auto, and P4 General Motors. If you follow the link down there, it'll get you to the task lists, free to download. We have some advanced level tests. L1 is advanced automotive gas engines. We have an L2, which is advanced level diesel diagnostics. I don't necessarily want your folks to take those tests but there is a huge amount of information in there about how the systems work, the evap systems, how the monitors work on L1, L2, the exhaust after treatment systems, the injectors, the fuel control, all that kind of stuff. Again, free to download, a lot of really, really good information. And not to throw anybody under the bus here, but a few of the folks in this conversation actually helped me write those and update those. So we got a lot of industry support, really detailed, a lot of energy. So if you guys have the opportunity to review those, it would be helpful. Mr. Brian, you're muted, sir.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
To add to that, that is a fabulous idea, Bob, because I was on part of updating the L2 advanced diesel. We had to add the SCR system. So it's a wealth of knowledge in that guidebook for what we call our, it's our ASE after treatment system, our composite vehicle, but Bosch fuel system folks were involved in that. Just a wealth of knowledge went into that, designing that and putting that all together. So it's a huge, huge overview of that system, and just really, it's an after treatment training class in a book. That's what it is, all rolled up in one. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You know, Bob, I don't want to get too far ahead here, but you know, technicians can have a level of anxiety when they are preparing to take these tests. They really can. I'm one. I've done it multiple times, and seems like every time I go to do it, I have the same level of anxiety. But I do find, and maybe my elevator doesn't go all the way to the top because I tend to take them all at one sitting, which I don't recommend, by the way. So, you know, especially if you have a tech that's never taken any of these tests, they should take one. And you know, your parts personnel should take one, right? Service riders. I don't recommend trying to do multiple at a time. But my point is this: I want to revisit the task list that Bob talked about, because it's every time I go and prepare to take these exams, these certification exams, I pull out those task lists, and because it really is a really good overview of where those tests are going to focus, the subjects. And for me, it gives me a really good guide to what I need to go study and make sure I'm real comfortable in those areas. So don't underestimate how important that is. It will help the personnel be successful if they pull out those task lists and understand what that particular test is going to cover. And really, it gives you an idea of what percent of that test is going to cover that particular section. So again, I want to reemphasize that the task list, don't overlook those. Thank you.
Great comment, Homer. Thank you.
And to add to Homer's comment there, he's exactly spot on. We hear it all the time on the T4 medium heavy truck brakes tests. Techs go in with the mindset, I do air brakes, but there's a small section in there on hydraulic brakes. And that's what makes them not successful in the test. So I don't work on hydraulic brakes, but it's a medium heavy duty brakes test.
Great point, Brian. Thank you. And Homer, thank you for that, guys. Okay, some additional questions about ASE, and I'm going to throw this out to the group. So ASE parts certification is available, and I'll give you guys a list at the end. There was a question about, didn't know there was 3 of them. How does this help the parts distributor and the parts person? We've talked about that just a little bit. If there's any other additional stuff we want to talk about there, Martin, please jump in and give me your feedback, what you think, and the rest of the panel would be great.
I think you said it earlier. I think the more knowledge somebody has, the better chance they have of solving the customer's problem. And I think that somebody takes the time to go through the ASE certifications just shows that they're trying to be a cut above.
Agreed.
Yeah, I want to say something. Thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. I agree 100%. And, there was a comment earlier about, it can improve your sales, and it does. We know statistically it does that. But I want to focus that a little bit, because important to me and important to our organization, is selling the right component, right? And for me, that's what, when I watch that and I stand by a parts counter and I watch that process transpire, I'm seeing an individual that's able to make sure the customer is getting the components they need for that job and not components they do not need. So yes, we're going to see an increase in sales, but we would expect to see an increase in the right sale, which should lead to a better experience for your customer. And I think that's what we're all looking for.
Thanks, guys. Great conversation. Next bullet point are what are some of the ways shops, business owners can help encourage parts folks and techs to become ASE certified? We touched on it a little bit. I kind of put in parens additional pay. There is more to it than that. Again, we're kind of showing our folks that we want to keep them around. We want to give them some support. Let them go out and try to take the tests and stuff. And honestly, you've heard from the group here, from the panel, a lot of us, our first time, we were not successful. You know, it was different than we expected. The questions are written by parts people, they're written by technicians, but it is easy to, I won't say misread or misunderstand what's intended by the question, but it's different than what our folks do on a regular basis. So, you know, again, shop owners, business owners, we just need to show them some support. If they go through and take it, you know, when they come back, don't give them too much grief. You know, hey, we need to work on your training. Let me know what I can do to help. You know, we want our technicians and our parts people to be as well trained and up to date as we can. So again, if we look at these tests as an assessment, it's not of the individual per se, but hey, you know, maybe your life experiences haven't got you all the coverage that's covered on the test yet. So again, you know, look at the task list and review from there. And you know, you have to have an honest assessment of yourself after you read the task list and review and say, hey, gosh, I'm not sure I know what this is. I need to do some more studying here. The next bullet point, some of the obstacles to getting your tech certified. We could talk about that all day. As Homer indicated, test anxiety, it's a real thing. We've done some studies on that. And most of our technicians, automotive truck, most of our parts folks, we don't like to be, you know, given a test and say, here, you got to hurry up and go take this. It's uncomfortable. Myself, I was not particularly a good student in school, so working on things kind of felt natural to me. But when it came to taking the test, I struggled initially to get started. And then I got my confidence up as the panel members have indicated they did as well. So some stuff like that, you know, again, you know, have that discussion with your folks, parts folks included, you know, that we could overcome the test anxiety and give them some training.
You know, a few things that I will share that, you know, we've had some success with. You know, at some of our locations, when we find that we just don't have the number of individuals certified that we are comfortable with, sometimes we'll start a study hall. And, you know, we make sure we send the materials and we have somewhat of a structure and a leader for that locally. And we'll start a study hall environment and we pay for that, right? So it may be a couple of hours a week, but we make that a little more formal than some might be comfortable with. But we want to make sure that we set up an environment where tech can come in with those that have been successful and walk through it. And that's helpful. Also, sometimes the simple things like just hanging up their certs, getting a copy of their certification and framing it and hanging that up somewhere in a place that means something to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be out in the front where your customers are, though it can be, some do that, but some kind of way behind the curtain, you know, make it personal to all your employees and your staff and make a big deal out of it. It goes a long way to help encourage a technician to take the risk. So just a few things we've done that I've seen add some success to it.
Excellent. Thanks, Homer. That's great point, sir. Our next bullet point is how can ASE certified techs help with some of the modern technical challenges, such as EV, electric vehicles, and ADAS, advanced driver assistance systems. Again, our tests are updated on a pretty regular basis to make sure we have current technology in the tests. So if they are honest with themselves and they go take a test on the, let's use truck electrical T6, they're going to see some questions about radar, active radar, lane departure, things like that. They're going to see some newer technology. So if we use this as an assessment or a gauge on the training for the newer technology, they are probably going to come back and, let's be honest, say, hey, what the heck? I don't know anything about this. Why was that question on there? That's too new. We normally wait 2 to 3 years for a new system to be out before we put it into a test. So it's out there, and our folks need to use this to realize, I haven't touched this yet, but I need to get up to speed on it. Comments, questions on any of that? Okay. Go ahead.
One thing I will jump in there, obviously, ASC, we now have some ADAS testing available for the market, but we're also, I don't want to say too much about it, but we are certainly on the verge of launching an EV series of tests. We're starting with safety, and you're going to see that very soon. We have that in a test mode right now. There are folks around the country, even today, as I speak, taking some of those exams to make sure that they do what we expect that they're going to do. And we'll take that feedback and we'll go back. But fairly soon, and I can't define soon for you right now, but fairly soon, we're going to release our first EV safety test for technicians, which will apply across multiple car and truck platforms. And then you're going to see more advanced level EV testing. So we are trying to make sure at ASC that we are providing credentials that are relevant in the market and keeping up with technology. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation.
Great point, Homer. Thank you. So not, again, with Homer, not to go too far here, but the EV level 1 test is running a pilot program right now. So as Homer indicated, level 1 is really safety. And that would be applicable to anybody, even in the shop with an EV vehicle, car, truck, bus. We've had electric BEVs, battery electric buses, out running for a while now. And we haven't really had much standards set out there just yet. So we were tasked by our board at ASE to come up with a standards EV safety type stuff. So level 1, as Homer said, is piloting right now. Level 2 will come next. That'll be a bit more entailed down to testing circuits and some motor stuff. Level 3 will be very entailed into the battery packs, electric motor disassembly, things like that. So again, we're industry driven, so you'll be seeing those hit the street soon. It's going to be pretty reasonably priced to get your 3 different levels of certification. So we're excited. It's going to be a learning curve. As Homer said, we're running it out right now. We'll see what we get back and we'll adjust from there to make sure it's appropriate. So I'm going to jump to the next bullet point if I can. Industry best practices that improve ASE test pass rates. As an example, we're involved with TMC. TMC is Technology and Maintenance Council, and a lot of our folks on this panel sit on what we call our study groups, and they actually put forward recommended practices that will eventually become industry standards as to how we do certain things, from wheel end, final adjustments to things like that, even to the reduced stopping distance brakes. That kind of also came through TMC on our recommended practices. So with that, I'm going to open up either Homer or George or Brian Lewis, because you guys have all sat on all of those panels many, many times. So if you want to share some information, that'd be great. You're still muted, Mr. Brian Lewis.
Sorry about that. So the TMC recommended practices, they go hand in hand with the ASE testing. It's the industry professionals coming together, taking their hat off from whatever manufacturer they are, and they get in a room and they work it out and say, hey, we need to have a standardized practice for this and a guideline for technicians or parts folks, or how we're going to do certain things. And it takes it out of the gray area, I like to call it. So a technician's in the shop or parts person, do I really need to get this for the right thing? That means it's great. It puts it in black and white. It's either yes or no. We get out of the gray area, then it gets back to we're doing the job correctly to industry standards. And then it gives us a better self-esteem that we've done the best job we can do for the customer and that piece of equipment is safe on the highway.
So, you know, just to reinforce the bullet point here, you know, I don't want to underestimate the impact of it. For a technician or a parts person to become familiar with the recommended practice relevant to the subject that they're going to be testing in, it's critically important because the ASE task listing and the tests are consistent with TMC recommended practices, which TMC is I would call it the technical leg of the American Trucking Association. So it is not, it's an organization that's made up of some of the best minds in the industry, both on the OE side, aftermarket side, you know, all your parts, your suppliers, we're all in the room and we're having discussions and to make sure that the procedures, specifications documented are consistent with the equipment that's on the highway. And so, you know, there's no way I'm going to go take an ASE exam without digging into the TMC RPs relevant on the medium heavy duty side. That would be, you know, a death sentence to go take those tests without having that awareness. So I encourage you, if you want to improve the pass rate or you want to improve your confidence level that an individual can pass the test, make sure they were exposed and they understand the content in the TMC recommended practice relevant to that particular test category.
Excellent conversation, guys. Thank you.
Just a note on that too, that is something as we continue to expand our educational offerings, we do plan on having those RPs available to our membership so they can always refer to those.
Excellent.
Yeah.
A lot of good information. And then the final bullet point, and I'm going to turn it over to George Aarons after that. So what's available to help those interested in studying for the tests? There is some aftermarket stuff out there, Motor Age, Delmar, Cengage, folks like that. I'll be working with Martin behind the scenes. We'll be sharing all of our task lists and stuff with him to stick onto the LMS. And at the end of this, I'll give you my email address as well. So if I can directly send them to you, I'm happy to do that too and answer questions and stuff. So there is some training out there. I know you guys actually have some of your own stuff online that's really good as well. So with permission with that, I'm going to move to the next slide and I'm going to let Mr. George Aarons jump in here.
Cool. And Bob, if you could just navigate the slides for me.
Most definitely, sir.
You want to click on the first couple.
Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody. My name is George Aarons. Thanks for the time today. Everybody's talking about the technician shortage. And I say, do we really have a shortage or did you just have a shortage of qualified applicants? And what I mean by that is when people apply for your company, do you have people that apply? They're just not qualified. That doesn't mean we have a shortage of interest. We just have a shortage of qualified individuals. Rumor has it that this generation doesn't want to work with their hands, which is completely false. And that these programs are closing all over the country. That's false also. Automotive and truck programs are growing across the country. Now collision programs are. The number one reason they are is low enrollment. But many organizations that are looking to grow their workforce, if they're willing to invest and grow young people into their workforce and foster that loyalty, they'll have a technician for a long period of time. Next slide. Or next one. Yep. Schools are training. So give you an example. We have about 2,000 accredited programs in the United States, which make up about 45% of the total programs. Most of them are automotive programs, but we will impact over 126,000 students in our accredited programs this year alone. And this spring, over 51,000 will be graduating from auto, collision, and truck programs at both the high school and the community college level. Also important to know that 18% of the students taking auto tech in high school want to work on trucks or heavy equipment. It's just not offered in their school district. Best example is the Cypress Fairbanks School District in Houston, Texas. They have 12 high schools, 12 automotive programs, 1,400 students taking auto tech, and their number one employer is Mustang Cat. We sometimes don't realize that the schools in our own community is a pool of high quality entry-level individuals that could come to work for you. Next bullet point. Students need to have viable career paths. We understand through surveys that the number one reason for a student not to take the next course offered in succession in high school is not schedule conflict. It's no defined career path. And that's where you as employers or people in the industry need to go out and visit these schools and let them know who your company is, what your brand is, what you represent, what your values are, and get to know these young people. Next one, please. Local partnerships are the answer. We have a national concern with a local solution. Get involved. If you're not involved in your local programs, you're part of the problem. Next. But how does that work? And how do you get started? What do you do? Most of us, the last time we were in school, we were on our way out. We got a diploma and they were happy to see us go. And we had no desire to ever go back. So how do we fix that? ASE has created what we call an Adopt a School program. It's you for business and industry to find different ways to get involved with your local programs in ways that are convenient for you and how much effort you want to put into that. Next one, please. If you go to our website, at the top of the website, you'll see Adopt a School, Find a Program, and Find a Rep. So before I go into Adopt a School, Find a Program, if you click on Find a Program, put in a city or state or a zip code and a mileage rating, it will tell you where all the programs are in your area. Find a Rep, we have field managers all across the United States that cover the different states that can help you with that initial introduction to the local school. But if you click on Adopt a School, go ahead and next slide. It'll take you to the Adopt a School website. Next slide. We're going to ask you some basic information. The only reason we're asking this will go to our field managers and they would follow up with you and say, hey, we understand you went into Adopt a School. How can we help? Next slide, please. That information, once again, it's simple information. We're not looking for major information, but how to communicate with you and our field managers. Next, please. Once you're in there, we have different solutions and different things that you can do. Something as simple as being a guest speaker. And that's important because many times students don't want to see a gray hair or a no hair like me, you know, a baby boomer. They want to see somebody that looks like them. And many of you have younger techs in your companies that went to these local schools. Well, they're probably the best guest speaker because they walked the halls and sat in those seats. Or you as employers, let them know who your company is. Let them know what your brand is. Let them know about career opportunities and what goes on. Or have a field trip. Take them out of their comfort zone and put them in your comfort zone. Or how to get involved in an advisory committee, or how to get involved in a career fair. Many of you probably tried career fairs and it was a miserable failure. And the reason why is you were just another tablecloth with useless trinkets because the students didn't know who you were and they walked right by you. Or how to share some of your training with the instructor or the students. Those students start engaging in your training. There's an opportunity that that student is interested in the same things that you are. Also, shadowing, how to do work-based learning or apprenticeship. All these different things are available through the Adopt a School program. Next. Click the next couple buttons there. Why Adopt a School? Every one of you need technicians or you wouldn't be on this call. And a lot of times you're looking for an experienced tech with 20 years experience that's going to turn 60 hours a week. Sorry, person doesn't exist anymore. And the ones that do, a lot of them have baggage. Grow your own. The only bad habits they'll learn are the ones you teach them. Use your local schools to grow your workforce. You're both a personal and professional taxpayer in your community. Why don't you make sure that they're spending your money wisely? Serve on the advisory committee. When I say make a donation, if you've got a core engine or parts or other things, or through some of your suppliers, there's some parts that you can donate to the school. Those things are worth their weight in gold. But it also shows that your brand is engaging and your company is engaging in the school, and that's more exposure for your company. Connect with the students, see who they are. Many of them may be children of people that work for your organization. Support the school and the staff with the training. Transition the students from school to work. We find that those students that do not engage in any work-based learning in school, we lose 41% in the first 2 years. Those students that do engage in work-based learning, they stay in our industry for decades. You've got to be able to onboard these young people into your culture. You've got to be able to onboard them and don't bring them on the way you were. Just because you had to push a broom for the first 2 weeks doesn't mean they do. And also raise community awareness. Your involvement in the community is like you're volunteering for any other activity or initiative in your community. Next. Once again, these are different opportunities. You can click on each one of these boxes and it gives you samples and information on how to engage in this part. And these are all different ways for you and your other members to just find different ways to get involved in your local school. Next, please. There it is. It's an overview of a guest speaker. Next one. Click down, keep going. These are just different things. Judging a competition, those things are huge. You get to see the students demonstrate. Career fairs, when they're done correctly, they're very valuable. Having these students, their instructors and administrators tour your facilities or have an open house for them and their parents. We have one dealer in Houston that every time they hire a young person, they invite the parents in to meet everybody in the service department so the parents know where the student is working, who they're working with. A sponsored, student-sponsored auto show or car club. These are just examples. Do you have to do all? No. Even if you just do one, if you do it correctly, you are going to grow your awareness and potentially students are going to gravitate to your organization. Use some of your supplier support to maybe help update and renovate a classroom or instructor. Assist with ASE certification. We accredit programs to national levels. Also, conduct mock interviews. What better way to see your future workforce, but then conducting mock interviews at the school? What is shadowing? Many of you may not know that is. It's when a student comes to your place of business for a few hours and either stands alongside a technician, a service advisor, parts person, learns about your organization and different things. Gives you an opportunity to learn about them and them to learn about you. Hiring a student, whether it's a co-op, internship, or apprenticeship, your choice. ASE does have a registered apprenticeship for medium heavy duty truck. And train to serve your staff as mentors. What do I mean by that? If you're going to bring a young person into your organization, you need mentors. And a mentor selection is not 8 o'clock Monday morning. You call Bobby, the technician, over and say, we got a young kid starting in an hour. Make sure he doesn't die. That's not it. The two most important things you need to ask anybody who's going to be a mentor in your organization is two simple questions. One, do you like working for us? And two, do you like working for our industry? If they can't answer yes to those two questions, don't even bother. It shouldn't even be your best technician. It should be somebody in your organization that's been in the industry 4 to 7 years, but somebody who's been with you over a year. Somebody who's maybe involved already with youth programs such as Boys and Girls Clubs, scouting, softball, baseball, Little League, church. These are different things. By bringing young people on and having people serve as mentors helps grow your workforce. And bringing them on and mentoring them and making sure they understand your culture, it makes a huge difference. I'm going to give you a real quick scenario. How many of you said this or heard this? I hired this young tech at this high-powered tech school. He or she rolled in their brand new red toolbox. I put him on a job the first day and they screwed it up. Really? Did they screw it up or did they just do it different than you? where they taught a certain way and process and procedure, and your company circumvented that procedure to get the customer's vehicle out. And oh, by the way, did anybody in your organization tell them how you do things? No. We're eating our young. We're expecting them to know things that they don't know, and the things that they don't know about you and your organization and how your shops operate. We have to mentor and grow our workforce. If you look at them as an expense, you'll be a complete failure. If you look at them as an investment, you'll be very successful and grow your workforce. Next.
George, if I may, to add on to that, as far as the mentors go, believe it or not, we've got experience where the mentors become better employees and learn to play well with others by mentoring young folks coming in the door.
They do. They
so don't
do.
discount that too.
Nope. And we also need to recognize the mentors. And then some folks in your organization that originally weren't thinking about being a mentor now want to be. You know, it's back to that. I don't want to be the first one to do it. I don't want to be the first one to take the test. Well, there you go.
Right.
Next slide. So, Bob, I guess this one's yours.
Okay, so this is our career support. Again, there's our National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence, the ASE. There's the Education Foundation. ASE also has a Training Managers Council, ATMC. Probably won't affect a lot of you folks, but there's also the QR codes there. I'll be sharing this slide pack with Martin. He can share it with whoever would like to have it. I've got no concerns there. There's our website, www.ase.com. Pretty simple. Even I can remember that. And
Bob, one thing I would say about the ATMC really quickly.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
I was on their board for a long time and part of that organization. And, you know, if in your organization you have a training entity, it doesn't matter what the subject is. That particular organization is a network of professionals that spend much of their time thinking about the most effective way to develop training, deliver it, measure it, whether that's online, whether that's instructor-led, regardless of the media or how that's presented. And so I found tremendous value in my career and really in the effectiveness of the output of my department when I was responsible for training. And so I just wanted to revisit that a little bit. ATMC may be worth taking a look. And if you've got a training professional and you want them to continue to evolve and stay current and grow in that particular realm, it may be worth taking a look.
Great point, Homer. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. I'd like to thank you all very much for your time today, both the participants as well as our viewers. I did have two final quick questions here. First one is the service consultant certification. Is that task list available on the website?
It should be, yes, sir. But if not, I'll be happy to send it to you as well.
Okay.
But again, it should be, if you go into the website and scroll through there, click on tests, and then scroll down, it'll be a list of all the certification tests. C1 customer service should be on there.
Okay. And then lastly, is there any discussion about having any kind of trailer certifications?
That has been an ongoing conversation for a couple of years now.
Yes.
Brian Lewis, don't jump in and throw me under the bus here. It is a topic we're talking about internally. We've kind of got it started. We're still waiting for the rest of the industry to come in, and trailer manufacturers, folks like that, and say, hey, we need a standalone trailer cert. So yes, it is a topic of discussion.
Also, there is a trailer track in the Super Tech competition at TMC just for trailer technicians, and recognize the top trailer technicians also. So besides the heavy duty, we have light, medium, we have trailer, and then we have future tech. And anybody can attend Super Tech and participate in the competition. So FYI, great experience, another opportunity for networking, but great opportunity for you to learn what you're good at and what you need improvements at.
Excellent. Well, again, final thanks to everyone. Just a reminder, this has been recorded and we will post it to the university. We will also share this with ASE as well. Have a great day. Thanks so much for your time and be well.
Martin, thank you for
Thank
putting it
you.
on.
Thanks so
Thank you,
much.
everyone.